Go.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Corey Thompson from Dice Tower Now, Dice Tower Dish, and Above Board.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacor. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 295, and we're recording it on November 18th, 2023. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network, and we are at BGGCon, recording this live in this wonderful environment here with the sun hitting us first thing in the morning.
Well, it's only appropriate. It's just basking in the glory that is Dallas.
We're so relaxed, it's so peaceful, we're having so much fun, and Tom Vassell is not. Because you know why? According to Corey, Tom Vassell is a poopy head. Yes, I asked Corey for something to say over here. He goes, call him a poopy head. I'm like, well, perfect.
Professional writing here, folks. You don't get this for free.
We are professionals in every sense of the word.
Absolutely.
Professional a-holes, professional everything. Notice, Dice Tower Network, we can't curse.
No, not at all.
A-hole is not a curse.
No.
It means artistic hole.
Yeah.
Artistic gravity well.
Artisanal hole.
Artisanal. That's absolutely beautiful.
That's it.
So Corey, well, what is happening in your life and everything that's going on?
Oh man, still traveling nonstop.
Cool.
I was in Miami where there was no sun, of course. Miami's not known for that. And then pretty much right after that came to Dallas. And BGG is such an amazingly fun convention.
Yeah.
It's turned into a social convention for me.
It really is.
I get to see all the friends I don't see very often. So hanging out with all the BGG folks, so Candace and Lincoln and Nikki and Aldi, so good to see them again. Hang out with some designers, John Clares, such a good friend down in LA. And I finally met Martin Wallace for the first time.
Oh, you never met Martin?
I had never met Martin before, and he was so nice and welcoming, and we talked about all sorts of cool stuff. I'm going to go check out his new design this afternoon.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Excited about that?
I've heard about the new design.
Oh, I'm excited
Super
about
secret,
that.
we can't tell you, I'm sorry. That, it is an insider thing, but when we're under friend-DA. I didn't sign anything, but we call it a friend-DA.
And I got to play one of Matt Leacock's prototypes last night.
Was it the one that I know about? That might have a really cool IP on it?
It might be.
That's nice, that's nice. Again, I'm not supposed to talk about
NDA.
Yeah,
Matt will never forgive me.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it's great. So we're at the bar. You can even see, well, that's the name of a room over there. It says Windsor up there. But we're at Monduel's, the bar at the Hyatt where the BGG Con takes place.
And it's really amazing. This is like where all the social stuff happens.
This is it.
Every night there's a group of like 10 to 20 just friends who only see each other at the conventions, and we just sit around and just talk shop. It's so fun.
We literally sit like here in this seat, or that one over there, or that one over there, and we'll just spend 4 hours hanging out, having a couple beers, relaxing,
hanging
talking
out with
shop.
Tanya Thompson, with Eric Lang, everybody that is in the industry.
It's fun. Well, not industry. A lot of people are just like friends,
true.
right?
That's
like
true.
Our friends Nina and her husband James. Other people who would like to be or want to be designers. Betsy, who came over last night, she used to work for me at Stronghold Games when we were in Dallas, at BGG Con. So much fun and so much socialization goes on at this convention.
And the library is magnificent. The game playing is spectacular. It is just such a great, all-around, low-key, relaxed convention.
It really is. Anything else that you want to talk about? We're good.
It's been same old, traveling the world and filming exciting things.
And what just dropped for Above Board? 2 things.
The shark video just dropped, but this is coming out in a week, so I think people know. And there was a little follow-up video to the shark video that, we had gone through our entire list of friends and celebrities and relatives' pets, and we were down to the very bottom, and Steven graciously agreed to be on the new video. And we thought hard about not including it at all, but there were computer failures and people didn't show up, so we do have a video with Steven.
That's good. Yes. It's a really funny follow-up to the shark video where Travis is looking to find somebody to take his place and go into the sharks because
We had such a good time.
he doesn't want to do it. So, really great stuff. So go check that out at Above Board
Next
TV.
time we'll put you in the water with sharks.
And on my side, on the Podfather Games, we have friends like that are eyeing us up and down here. Hello, Marion, very big friend of the show. You can sit in a little bit if you like. No, she doesn't want to. She's a big friend. She's always commenting and watching. So, here over at the Podfather Gaming, of course, we are here at Board Game Geek Con. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second.
Oh, man. I get such respect.
If you, for any chance, can get over to Board Game Geek website and find the quad, our next show just dropped. I mentioned it last week, but it's worth mentioning again. Amanda Panda was the guest host there with the 3 regulars, and that was episode 7. They're going great. We're getting several thousand views now per episode.
That is awesome. It was
which is really
so
nice.
much fun.
And you know, you were on a crappy episode 3.
I was on crappy episode. Wasn't it episode 5?
You were on 5, absolutely.
I was on 5.
Yep. And episode 8 will drop actually in a week after this comes out. The first Wednesday, I believe, of December. It's always the first week in December. Episode 8, and that's Paul Grogan's episode. So, and he's just...
Oh, I love Paul. He's got to be just so fun and fast and quirky on that. He's such a cool dude.
He's just a great dude. So, I mentioned last week, and I have to mention this one more time. If you have not seen the Netflix series, The Devil's Plan, you're not a gamer. You have to see this because what they're doing is competing in this huge game. Think of Squid Game, where people don't die, but people get thrown in jail, people get eliminated. You know, it's amazing. I won't talk any more about it, but just go check it out. You can see the dubbed version or the subtitled version as you see fit. It's a Korean, just like Squid Game was. It's a Korean show.
No, I've heard such good things. I still haven't seen it.
Oh, well, you've been traveling.
I have never stopped traveling.
I binged it one weekend. I did all 12 episodes. It
Wow.
was great. So here at the con, I've literally played. Well, now I've played 3 different games. Because yesterday I played Marvel Zombicide, which my
really
copy
liked it.
My copy is on its way with all of it, the all-in thing. The only part of Marvel Zombicide I got so far is Galactus, which doesn't even fit anywhere in my game room, but I made it fit. But I played Marvel Zombicide, very light, fun, easy. You can essentially just start playing without even learning the rules. If one person knows the rules, it's a cooperative, obviously. When I was zombie Captain America.
I think they really streamlined the rules down and made it, like you said, just a really accessible experience. The bottom line with it, the take-home, which I think is amazing, it's Zombicide. You are zombie superheroes. You eat the innocent.
You eat the innocent. So yesterday the scenario was someone had to devour Wong from the
Doctor Strange
inner sanctum, the Sanctum Centurion, whatever it is. Someone had to devour Wong, and I did it. Captain America did it. Zombie Captain America. Then we had to defeat Strange.
Okay.
And then, and he keeps coming back, of course, but you defeat him. And then we had to break into the Sanctum Centurion and exit out. And of course, things are just showing up all over. We had hordes of humans and bystanders and other superheroes showing up to try to beat us.
It's so fun.
We won. But
those minis are gorgeous.
The minis are beautiful. It's worth it. I'm so happy I played it because now I have the experience of playing it so that when it does arrive, which should happen by the end of the year, it's starting to ship in the second
wave. Mine arrived during this most recent travels.
Yeah.
Like within days.
Right. So you're very close to their West Coast hub.
Yeah.
I don't know where their second hub is. I'm close to their East Coast. It might be showing up by the time I get home.
Get it soon.
Yeah, it should be very soon. But the other 2 games I played, each one played twice, was one I did with Corey twice, and that was Stationfall. Stationfall, again, is now my number 2 game of 2023, and it is just chaos, where you have a secret agenda, and you're trying to manipulate the characters that are out there, and there could be up to 20 different characters to do that with.
Yeah.
We played a massively big game, which was insane, and then we scaled one down to only... play with six people, and that played a little bit better and faster. But just so much fun. If you have a chance, check out Stationfall. Played twice. I basically came in like close to dead last both times.
I I do want to mention here.
Yes, this is a good thing.
You were the monkey.
I was Astrochimp.
Astrochimp the monkey. And you revealed yourself because your
Too
character
early.
is hidden.
Yep.
People don't know who you are. He revealed himself too early. And I believe I killed your monkey 4 or 5 times in a row.
Downed Astrochimp. You downed Astrochimp. Yeah, it was pretty ugly. He just sat there and just said, saying, I shoot Astrochimp. And I'm like, why? He goes, I don't want a monkey with a gun hanging around.
It's true.
I don't want a monkey with a gun.
I was the sentry robot. My goal was to kill anybody who looked threatening, anybody who was holding a weapon.
Oh, that is so funny.
And you kept picking up a weapon and then walking to me. And then I would kill you.
I was not trying to hurt you. One of my goals was Astrochimp has to get back to Earth. He should have a weapon with him for extra points. He should have the briefcase with him for extra points, and he should have the artifact. He's a very simple character. Get off the space station, get a gun, get the artifact, get the briefcase, and failed miserably.
It was really fun.
Failed fairly miserably. The whole thing. And of course, my other big thing I played War of the Ring twice already.
That's amazing.
Yeah, 2 mornings in a row. One with my good friend Eric Dewey from On Board Games podcast, which has been going on for like 20 years. If you have never heard On Board Games, both of those guys are insiders as well. Go check them out. Fantastic. Donald Dennis and Eric Dewey. I beat Eric playing the Free Peoples, but I lost to John D. Clare, designer John D. Clare, also playing the Free Peoples.
John is a really good gamer.
And I lost by essentially 2 dice. It's action dice selection if you've never played. And if I would have, on the next roll, I would have gotten the right dice. I had the means of changing dice. Getting those 2 things, I would have been in Mordor. He had no way to stop me. I would have been dunking the ring. But he got the 10th victory point of military, and he beat me. So close. We did asterisk the game a little bit because there's one important rule that when the Witch King came out, all the Free Peoples are supposed to activate, which would have made it easier for me to go to war to defend myself. But no, John didn't read that paragraph on the card, so I didn't know that I could.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. So happy. Last thing about my personal stuff is that Paula and I are hosting Friendsgiving this coming week. This is Thanksgiving week coming up. And we're going to have Julie Ahern from Van Ryder Games, Robert Geislinger, president of Arcane Wonders, they're married, and Alex Schmidt, the COO of Stonemaier Games, which, by the way, this is basically my role-playing group at D&D, not Robert, but Julie and Alex and a couple other people who couldn't make it. They were supposed to come, they couldn't make it.
Such a fun group.
Yeah. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be part vegan Thanksgiving because Robert and Julie are vegan, so that's going to be interesting. But I like trying all kinds of food, and I've had some great vegan. So she's going to kind of cook that, and we'll cook the non-vegan stuff just so that we know, I know what's
It'll
coming
be
out.
great.
It's going to be fantastic.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. Well, you can come.
I think I'm traveling.
You should go see your wife maybe or something like that. All right, everybody, let's get over to the event deck. So the first piece of interesting news is that Asmodee, via the Embracer Group, right, their parent company and their publicly held company, they have to put out their earnings, and Embracer Group reported sales increases for Asmodee and declines at Dark Horse Comics. Not that we don't really talk about comics, but Dark Horse is not doing as well, and that's for the third.
Yeah, and Embracer owns Dark Horse as well, and several other media companies.
It's so much stuff. They own so much. And this is for Q3. For them, Q3 is July to September.
Yeah.
That's a normal Q3. So I think it's technically their Q2. In fact, I know it's technically their Q2. But look at that, ICV2, you did the wrong thing there. They report on a different kind of financial calendar. But anyway, They reported an increase. Tabletop game sales were up 25%, so that's significant, to $382.5 million for the quarter. All amounts converted from Swedish kroner, which is where Embracer is. With organic growth, that means it was not due to any acquisitions by Embracer Asmodee, which were up 15%. So 15% increase. And that would be year over year in the same quarter.
And this is good news because recently Embracer has said that they're down Embracer had a report that said that they were down, so they were limiting spending and acquisitions, which is kind of their big thing. So this is good news that they're coming back up.
But slightly modifying that whole story is that their TCG, collectible card games, trading card games, whatever you want to call them, Pokemon specifically, because Asmodee Distribution sells Pokemon in many non-US markets, drove this increase with low single-digit worldwide growth for board games. So it's not as good numbers for board games here, but it was a growth, and a growth is a growth, right? A win is a win, right? We don't measure the wins, we want to get wins, right?
Yeah.
European sales growth outperformed sales growth in the US, the company said, with its board game sales up 12% and TCG sales up 22% in Europe. Embracer did not reveal Asmodee's US sales change, but did report that the US mass market for games was down 6% in the quarter, likely from Circana numbers. I don't know what that means.
I have no idea. Maybe they typoed Lorcana? But Lorcana, actually, I thought was driving the industry very positively.
But maybe it's a cannibalization of, I don't know. Circana, I think that means Lorcana. Behind a 4% decline in the U.S. mass market for board games, with family, strategy, and kids games leading the declines. Asmodee's EBITDA was up 291%.
I can see Asmodee being down because Lorcana was super up. They kind of stole the market or something like that.
Asmodee's EBITDA, that's basically net profit, was up 291% to $38.3 million for the quarter, with improved cash generation due to a slower pre-hobby inventory buildup last year.
Nice.
This is all good. This is very good news. There's been a problematic time in the industry in general, and it's sort of as the big guys go, so do the little guys. So we can actively report on these numbers because they're public, and we can see what the general trend of the industry is. If Asmodee is not doing good, I bet many smaller companies not, and vice versa. When they're doing good, other companies are probably starting to do well as well.
Well, we're still doing this oscillating recovery from pandemic. So during pandemic, things were very down, and then they report as very up when we recover after. And now we're doing a recovery period.
Absolutely.
Where people have shopped, people have bought, people feel up to date. They're no longer in that hype to buy things that they missed during the pandemic.
Yep,
so
exactly.
We're just oscillating to a set point.
Sure, absolutely. So now we have some interesting news in a slow news time, by the way. This is always going to be a slow news time at the end of the year because everyone is locked and loaded. So now they're thinking about next year, and then they'll start announcing, next year. But we have some video game conversion to board game news. What do we got?
Usually, so I also do the news on Dice Tower Now, and most of the news that I do over there is board game release. And for Insider, we try to trim it down to industry news and not so much this game's released, that game's released.
Right.
But I thought this was really interesting, and it was a slow news week, so I threw it in. There's two high-profile announcements of new board games from the video game market. CMON announced at their Thailand CMON Expo last week that they are doing a God of War board game. There's been a couple God of War games in the past. There was a card game that generally was not well received, but this is a traditional CMON, lots of minis, adventure style, probably scenario-driven board game. Not a lot of details are out there, but I think this is going to generate a lot of excitement. God of War, I believe it's Sony Santa Monica. The Sony branded video game is super hot.
Super popular game in the video space.
So you're definitely going to be playing Kratos and his kid, Atreus, and going through the adventures. So
very cool.
The second one that personally I'm more excited about.
This one's much more exciting in my opinion.
Glass Cannon Unplugged, who is the newish publisher that did Frostpunk, and everybody loved Frostpunk. They have announced that they are doing a Diablo board game and a Diablo RPG.
That's pretty cool. I mean, Diablo is an IP from a series of games that almost gets more popular every time they release another one, right? The Diablo 4 right
just
now
came
is
out,
crushing it.
Oh man, it is so popular. And I will say, the announcement showed a box cover, and the box cover was Diablo 4.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's not like they're saying they're doing a Diablo game and pulling from the old library or something strange. This was the Diablo 4 cover.
Nice.
On this board game.
Nice.
They've said that it's going to go to crowdfunding in 2024, and they are doing both the new board game and RPG game within the Diablo universe.
Diablo fans, this one's for you, without a doubt.
I love Diablo. I'm super excited about this.
So again, we said a light news week. Let's get over to strategy and tactics. All right, Torben, who had like 4 questions last week, continues his reign of terror on questioning us.
Well, just go ahead and take over the podcast.
Yeah,
here,
man, Torben. We thank you very much for your very questions, and he's a new listener, so Torben, you're okay. Torben's from Germany. He's at Nazar on Board Game Geek. He says, speaking of augmented reality in games, he was talking about that last week in one of his questions, there are multiple examples of games that use an additional layer to spice up the gameplay via multimedia content. I'm thinking of music to set the mood, or as part of the game, like FitzTech Safe House does it. I don't know that game, but okay.
Yep.
Or a step further, games like Chronicles of Crime or the Echoes series by Ravensburg, or the multimedia aspect.
Very much app-driven games, yeah.
Yep. Or even further, Frosthaven and alike, where the Foreteller app, which is great. I play Gloomhaven, and I'll only play that with the Foreteller app. It's so good.
So Foreteller, we have a really good relationship between Above Board and Foreteller.
How do you know this?
And Travis, who's the other co-owner at Above Board, has done voices for Foreteller.
Oh, nice.
And we've got a great thing going on. They are such a cool company. So if people don't know, Foreteller will provide background music and narration
and they have an
on
app,
your mobile app,
right,
for a huge variety of board games, and it's really fun. It's super cool. You want like your Gloomhaven, Frosthaven things narrated out loud, Foreteller, man.
Professional voice acting for like all that narration that you're supposed to read when you go into the next place, which I do, and I love that stuff. You have professional voice actors doing it all. Phenomenal
They
stuff.
do such a good job.
So Torben's question is...
Yeah.
What's your opinion on augmented board games with multimedia? I think it's pretty obvious. I love it. I want more of it.
I love it too, but it's really... That's a little bit of a loaded question because we're doing a whole bunch of board games nowadays that aren't really augmented with multimedia from an outside party, but are designed in order to be a multimedia app-driven experience. The most recent one, Anunnaki, which is this huge, you are a deity, ruling the world game, to Chronicles of Crime, like you mentioned. Lucky Duck is kind of famous for these app-driven games, and they've got such a good team back there. I think they're here to stay. And back, I'm going to say 5-10 years ago, when Christian Peterson and Fantasy Flight was first doing app-driven games, there was a lot of kickback, and people were getting upset about keep our analog separate from our digital. I think those days are pretty much gone. I think people are accepting that a lot of board games are going to be app-driven.
I literally never had a problem with it. I think it enhances the experience, especially when you do it right. You can always do it wrong, but it enhances the experience.
There's so many incredible experiences you can have with this combination.
Right. Peter Haraldson from Sweden, he's at Pops on BGG. A follow-up on the minis, standees, meeples discussion. I, for one, like minis in games like Mansions of Madness, Imperial Assault, and This War of Mine, where the theme is very strong and is enhanced, and thus my immersion, by the minis. I agree, Peter. However, in a Euro like Gaia Project, I find them obnoxious. I much prefer the wooden pieces in Terra Mystica to the plastic in Gaia Project, and since you can cut wood in so many ways nowadays, they're usually less confusing compared to unpainted minis. So, to my question, you keep saying, show me a successful Kickstarter that doesn't have minis. I don't think we really keep saying that, but okay. His question was, show me, I guess, by what do you measure success in that case? The gross funding or the margin of the game? Are we actually that easily fooled that you can increase the margins for minis and you can make even more money because of it? Or is the margin pretty much the same for a minis versus standees versus meeples? All right, so Peter, first start off. If the game has minis in it, it is just proven that it's going to do better on Kickstarter, on crowdfunding. The gross number.
Gross numbers.
Start with the gross number.
Absolutely.
It just
will
does.
Be tens of thousands of dollars better minimum.
Minimum. And you know what? And if they are doing minis, they actually have to get more money. The mold costs, the initial startup costs are so high in any game that has any amount of custom plastic. Any. So if you have one mini in that game, or you have 10 different minis, or the mold, that one mold, which is around $5,000 to start. That's your startup cost. It's a sunk cost. You're never getting that money back. You got to get it. So you start with that. Secondly, you charge more for it too. So these games get charged more. So if your question that you're implying is, do you make more money on a minis game? The answer is generally you do. You look at any of the CMON games that break do these amazing numbers. They make a lot of money in these things, and they're making a lot more than if they were wooden games.
More back to the basics on it. The extra gross that you bring in on the Kickstarter, it definitely is worth it with minis. You don't lose that, because reproducing them once you have the mold is not that bad.
Yep, exactly. So I mean, in general, Peter, I'm with you in the general idea that you don't need minis in every game. Certainly, like most Euro games. This is interesting. So we were talking about just a little while ago Stationfall.
I was thinking about this too. Yeah,
Stationfall has hexagonal blocks,
wooden pieces.
Wooden pieces. They're mostly hexagonal for the biologics. This
is for all the characters, and there's a screen printed icon on the top of the hex.
Screen printed icon on the top, and that relates back to the cards that you reference.
Yep.
That are sitting out there for everybody, so everybody knows who everybody is. So people are talking about, well, they do make a mini set for this.
Yeah, I have the mini set.
And I'm like, I don't want to play this game with minis. Not because it would be cool and immersive, but there are 20 different miniatures on the board. It would be nigh impossible to tell who everybody is unless
they're painted and very individualized.
And that symbol has to be like on the base, very visible. If that was the case, then maybe this would work.
Plain gray minis tend to blur together on a board, especially if there's tons of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think someone mentioned yesterday that they were going to see if they could. Who was it? Was it Nina?
Oh yeah, I think it was Nina.
She might get the minis, paint them, making sure that was a really good solid symbol there on the base. I would not play it standard with minis. So that would hurt the game experience in this case.
I'm gonna play it with minis and see how confusing it is, because I like minis. But I totally agree. Euro games, I generally like them without minis. I like plain wooden meeples, and I'll go a step further. I get annoyed with screen printed wooden meeples. I would rather have an interesting shaped plain wooden meeple than something that's screen printed.
The next question by Peter we're going to have to take next week, because it's mostly toward Ignacy. So, Peter, you have to wait for this one for next week. Next week. And I have to make a big note here so I can move this down. Okay. Behind the scenes here. Got to keep things neat in my show notes, or else we're in trouble. Nita, who's from Croatia, who's at Ms. Sunshine Co.
I like that.
That was pretty
good interpretation.
Yeah. You mentioned indie publishers quite a bit. How do you define an indie publisher? That's a great question, because we throw that word out. Who's indie? What does indie mean? Does indie mean size? Does indie mean not owned by a parent company? I mean, there's a lot of ways. So when you think indie, what do you think?
I immediately go to size. An indie publisher is going to be
size matters, Corey.
Well, it's not the size of the company, it's what they do with it.
This is the Dice Tower Network. We were talking about company sizes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Be careful out there.
Yes.
So
yes. So, in my mind, and to be fair, an indie publisher, there is no definition. Everybody's going to have their own feelings about it. For me, it's going to be a smaller publisher that doesn't put out a ton of games each year. It doesn't matter how popular they are. Indie publishers can be huge and have not many games, but it's going to be size of the company.
It's going to be size. It's definitely size based. Size matters, Corey. So it's going to be size. In comedy, when you say it once, it's funny. You say it again, it's very funny. You say it 3 times, it's hilarious.
That's what I hear.
The rule of threes in comedy.
You should probably bring it up again.
Yeah. Okay. Later on, we'll bring it up again.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to go further on the size scale. I believe that any company, and this is I'm just thinking on the fly here. Any company that's not a public company would be defined as indie. And this is here where I'm going. Like, so you look at the sales of some of these companies. Simon is a publicly traded company on a Hong Kong stock exchange.
Huge.
And they're pretty darn big. Let's take just a step back. Stonemaier Games. They're an indie company. They're not publicly traded. Their sales are humongous. I have a little, in fact, Jamie talks about it, so you can see.
He is very public with his numbers, which I really appreciate.
The numbers, that company grosses $25 million a year in that area. That's a tremendous amount for that puts them at like the third largest of the companies we talk about. Asmodee, Simon, and they're like maybe number 3. Anyway, the point here is I still consider them an indie company.
And I don't. I think that they have mainstreamed enough that they are considered one of the big players. And to me, they're not indie anymore.
That's fair. That's fair. But you also realize they've got like 5 people in that company doing all that money.
I know. And then
I think it's
you
even
get
less
things
than 5.
like the other extreme on that is Cephalofair.
Yeah.
Cephalofair has only put out 3 games,
basically, right? Gloomhaven, Frosthaven, and another game.
And Founders.
Right.
And
then expansions.
They don't have many people in the company.
Right.
But they've made the single biggest crowdfunding project in board games.
Right. I absolutely consider them an indie publisher.
They're a very successful indie in my mind.
But so is Stonemaier.
And
Alex,
it's a really interesting
And
point.
Alex, the CEO, will be over at my house for Thanksgiving. It was the best DM I've ever worked with.
Alex is great.
He's amazing. Okay, so that's a great question. Thank you, Nita. Thomas Blaine from the U.S. He's at Thomas in New York. I bet he lives in New York. It's just a guess from that. Question for Steven. Hello, I'm here. You spell my name with a V, though. It's okay. What is your favorite type of beer, and what elevates the best in that category over the others in that style?
I can answer this for him. He is a Bud Light freak. His whole house is just filled with Bud Light cans. He's got murals of Bud Light. And he prefers them warm, and if you pour a little 7-Up in them, he likes it sweet.
Nothing of what he just said is true. There's literally not a single word in that very long sentence is true. So Thomas, people ask me this question all the time, and I always say, like, where am I at the time? What's the temperature? Am I outside? Am I sitting in front of a fireplace at a ski lodge? What kind of food am I eating, right? It's all of these things would determine what kind of beer I want to have at a given moment. So my favorite beer, it's just too hard to say. I'm going to give a big shout out to Hetty Topper from The Alchemist in Vermont. And there's so many great Vermont beers, but I don't have a single favorite beer. I have a lot of beers I've rated a 5 out of 5. So if you go on to Untappd, give those guys a shout out, and you friend me on Untappd, you can see my 5 rated beers. There's a decent number. It's probably 20 beers that I've rated a 5 of the 4,500 unique beers I've drunk in my life, which is pretty amazing.
Wow.
Which makes me an alcoholic. No, I'm not.
I've logged more board game plays than you've logged beers.
Unique beers.
Unique, yep.
Have you logged more than 4,500 unique board games? Not plays. Have you?
Oh, yeah.
I want to see your app. Not now. We'll see it later. Torben, he's back again from Germany. Just saw this one. Which board game designers go onto your Mount Rushmore?
Oh, man.
Board game designers on my Mount Rushmore. It's a really, now we're talking about just who are we saying are the 4 greatest designers, or who have achieved the greatest results, or things like that we're saying. But I'm gonna pick someone old, from the past.
I was kind of going through the same.
I'm gonna go with Sid Saxon. We're gonna start with Sid.
He was the first one in my mind.
He's of the original
I don't like
Pantheon.
that you're going first. You're stealing.
Okay, you can go one. Now you can pick one. I'll see if I like yours.
Uwe Rosenberg.
Uwe Rosenberg is a good choice. I'm going to say Reiner Knizia deserves it too, because of his, he's got 700 games in print, and some of them are better than others. Let's face it, and some of them are retreads of others. But I think he would deserve that kind of thing.
Yep.
Who else?
I'm gonna go Phil Walker Harding.
Really? Interesting.
Newer-ish designer, master of the elegant game, ridiculous number of games produced, just so prolific.
It's a good choice. And I'm going to say we mentioned him here, and you met him for the first time here, Martin Wallace, who
Yeah.
I have in my collection. I have a Martin Wallace calyx stripe from the top of the calyx, 5 cubicles down, and 1 over at the bottom. I have that many Martin Wallace games from back in the day, starting with like
Yep.
Age of Steam, the early War Frog games, and then he created Tree Frog because War
Yep.
Frog was a little aggressive, and including some of the stuff that he's done independently now. So
Absolutely agree.
absolutely one of my favorites.
And then we're already past 4 for the
We can name a
Rushmore,
few
but
more great ones.
yeah, so I got to throw in there Feld,
Stefan Feld.
Stefan Feld. I got to throw in Shem Phillips.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Shem and Garfield, he does amazing things with worker placement. Every time he puts out a game, it's a very simple, mechanistic change that you slap your head and go, why did nobody think of this?
Yep.
This is amazing.
We can really continue.
I could
There's
go
so
on
many
forever.
people that I consider a great designer, and I worked with lots of them and stuff like that. So, great question, Torben. Thank you for that. I think that Wolfgang Warsch would get
Yes.
there, would get there in the future, but he's a little too new. But the stuff that he did
He's
right
doing
there in the
so
beginning,
many different things. He had his golden year.
yeah, he had a golden year where he
So-
won the Spiel, the Kenner. He was like crazy.
The
but-
Kinder. He won everything.
No, he didn't do the Kinder.
He
But
was
won everything.
nominated on all 3 categories.
It's great. Torben, again, when balancing a board game, do you find some mechanics are harder to balance? I've always wondered that scenarios in Gloomhaven are so well balanced that in the majority of times you will barely make it. How is this achieved? Is it mathematical modeling followed by a crap load of playtesting? He might have used a slightly different word there, which I'll try not to use.
That's going to be a pretty long answer.
I mean, we'll try to go through it, I think. But I mean, there's no right answer. So first of all, I'm
Yeah.
barely a designer. Corey's not a designer, so we're
Well,
kind
thank
of.
you very much.
Well, I don't think you're a designer, are you?
No, but
you've developed.
I
games.
developed
Yeah.
and I help, and I've worked with a lot of designers.
Right. Yeah. Balancing is obviously hard, and it is mathematical on some level because
Yep.
designers will create spreadsheets of stuff. One of the first things that I did for my game, which I can't give you the exact stuff about the game, was I had to have there's a path in the game, a path system. You can go this way, you can go this way, you can go this way. And I had to kind of count the amount of
spaces.
points to get between these places and what you get by doing that. So if you go the hardest route, you get more cookies. I call them cookies. You go the shortest route, you get the least cookies.
Yeah.
So which way do you want to go? So yes, so it is mathematical on some level. It's gut on some level. Designers will throw crap against the wall and see if it sticks. And play test and play test and play test
Well,
and
one
play
of the
test.
fundamentals too is if you perfectly balance a game,
This is getting great, yeah.
it's not fun. It needs a spark. It needs something. Games need to be exactly and perfectly broken.
Isn't that an amazing concept? It really
But
is.
I want to throw a shout out there to Jeff Engelstein, who has done a huge number of papers on how to balance and how to design. He's also programmed a bunch of applications to figure out design and figure out dice and figure out probability and figure out all this stuff. You know, more in the lines of, do you use a computer program spreadsheet to figure out the balance process? So Engelstein is kind of the master.
Not to mention we make a joke, but he wrote the book
He
on
did
game design.
literally write
He
the
has
book.
an encyclopedia of game design mechanics. It's just amazing what he has done
With Isaac
to help.
Shalev.
With Isaac Shalev, give a shout out to both of them. It's pretty darn amazing what they've done with that. It absolutely
They're
could be
ridiculously
used.
smart.
Could be used as a textbook in a university level course. 100%. And it is. Well, he's using
And
it
Jeff
himself.
teaches
He
it.
teaches a course, but so you have to go buy it if you take his course. All right, that's awesome stuff. Let's get down to play testing. All right, Corey. So last week, you asked a wonderful question
I'm
here.
really proud of this question.
You're really proud of it?
You
Ignatius-
give me grief a lot. I think it's a cool question.
I think it's a great question. That question was, I'll read the question, and maybe you could take a few of the
Yeah.
of the things that we got from our listeners. The question was, what board game mechanism do you think is criminally underutilized? I'm amazed that Ignacy understood exactly what you meant by that, but he got it. It's a very American way of putting it. Criminally underutilized
I think
mechanism.
he understood.
Yeah.
So
what do you think?
these are mechanisms that we're absolutely in love with and are in disbelief that they are as rare as they are.
We don't see them as enough.
So
right?
I got one of the very first ones. I am 100% in agreement. Stephen Ekman says, turn order time tracks. Oh, I am so in love with games that have the generic rule, whoever's in last goes next.
It's literally...
And you spend time, like the cooler action. You can do any action you want along this path.
But the cool one's going to cost you 4 time units.
Oh, yeah. The cool ones are going to be so far ahead that you're going to do your turn, and then everyone else is going to get 3 turns after.
Right. And it's funny, I didn't think of this last week.
It didn't occur to me,
and
too.
And this absolutely, like Australia by Martin Wallace, which I published, Glenn Moore, uses this in such a wonderful way.
Tokaido.
The players in Australia, if you don't mind, the players each do this, and then all of a sudden the old ones awake, and then the old ones, the game system is doing it as well. The old ones will go because you've taken all these cool amount of things, and then they go and so you have not only the players on a time track, you've got the game system on the time track. It's beautiful. What else do we have here?
We've got Justin Henry said using marbles. It's like, yes. Marbles are just fun and tactile. They tend to roll around and everything.
So I mean, I assume he means in like games like Potion Explosion and things like that, right?
Fireball Island.
Yeah. Oh well. Okay.
Or even just as playing pieces. There's an old classic mass market game called Aggravation where everybody had marbles, and I remember absolutely loving just the tactile feel of marbles as your piece. There's a new game that is so cool. By I think it's Roberta Fraga, called Five Rivers, where it has a board that's double layered with tracks, and you kind of roll the marbles down these tracks and set up dams to catch them.
Interesting.
It's really neat.
Here's an interesting one by Mad Halfling. He also goes by Phil the Sheep, I believe, in his other incarnations. Maybe it doesn't need to be overused. Maybe it doesn't need to be overused, but deck building where you choose the order of the discards and you don't shuffle the deck when you refresh it. He said City of Iron makes really interesting use of this. Doesn't as does Aeon's End.
Aeon's End made it popular. City of Iron was quite a bit earlier. That was one of Ryan Lockett's first games. And it took me a while to really understand how powerful that was. Setting up the order of your cards for the next time around.
Right, and
That's really cool.
never shuffle. Right, so you set the order, and you just turn it over and you keep going. So you have some indication of what might come up, right? I mean,
that is a super cool one.
That's a super cool one. Take one last one. We gotta move because we're going long, of course. Sean Fleury. We know Sean.
I know Sean very well.
It would be multi-use cards. I don't just mean cards that can be used in 2 different ways. I'm talking Legrandha multi-use cards. Cards that can be used in 4 different ways, depending on how you place them. Absolutely.
Legrandha is one of my very favorite games. Oda, the designer, is a very good friend, and I was also involved in development of the new Legrandha. So this really touches a close place for me. The classic one he brings up is Glory to Rome and the variations of Glory to Rome. Every one of those cards, 4 different orientations, and you can do just amazingly complex, crazy things. Because Glory to Rome, of course, it spawned Uchronia and Motainai and all of these variations on that theme. That's Chudik's games.
Chudik's games are always insane on some level.
A GNC, such good stuff.
So, Corey, for next week, we're going to ask, you've been coming up with all these questions, and they're really, really amazing. So, tell us, what is the question that you've picked for next week?
So, we've had years that were themed the Viking year, where every game was Viking themed. We've had years that were zombies, and it seems like the zombie years come up over and over. Cthulhu games, things like that. So, what do you think the new theming trend is going to be in 2024? Or, alternatively, what do you want it to be? Do you think it should be the year of the banana? with nothing but banana games. If this happens, I will put up my top 20 banana games.
And I bet you can come up with 20.
I already did a top 20
my.
poop games.
Oh yeah, that's easy.
No,
So many
real
games.
games.
So many games with poop in it.
Real games.
There's so many games with poop in it.
None of these plastic, shoot the poop out the top.
Primordial Soup, by far, my number one poop game.
It
There's
was
nothing-
my number 2.
What was your number one poop game?
Pecunio non olet.
That's something about pooping, right?
So
No.
Pecunio non olet is really funny.
Rabbit hole.
It's a Euro game where you are a Roman entrepreneur who runs latrines.
Oh my god.
And it's based on a true story that there was a really famous Roman senator that he was ridiculed on the floor about basically running latrines. His whole business was poop. And his statement was pecunio non olet, which in Latin means money does not smell.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. So what would you want it to be? Would you want it to be bananas this year? I mean, this is a great question, but it's a really hard one. It's like there's so many potentials. What would you want a trend to be? I'm going to say, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say I want a trend to be one of my other great loves is space exploration and astrobiology, and I want hard space
Hard
science.
sci-fi.
Hard space science or sci-fi, but with projections. But
Well,
like,
arguably, Terraforming Mars
Yes.
drove that to a certain point. There were a ton of Mars and hard sci-fi games
I want more of
in
them.
those years.
I want more of them.
I agree. I think it's great. I like this trend towards natural themes. I would like to have another year where we have a ton of food-oriented games. There's been some really good food, recipe, fruit growing games. I think that would be cool to have again.
Very, very cool. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I have just created a thread for you in our guild on Board Game Geek. Please go there and answer our question
You're
to
so
you.
clever.
I am so good at this.
So clever.
I can
Look
do this
at
on
this
the
little punum.
Oh, get out.
So clever.
Don't touch me. It's very creepy. Let's now get to the final scoring. You guys really have to watch the video of the stuff that happens here, especially when we're in the same exact location.
We are terrible if we're in the same room.
We're so
together.
bad. Thank you so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts. Or you can now watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. If you want to be part of the podcast, you can go over to our guild on Board Game Geek, ask us questions for strategy and tactics, answer our question to you in the play testing forum. Thread. That's the word I wanted there.
You're so high tech.
I'm so good. Check out our websites, portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, and dicetowerdish.com. We're all over social media, and we want to interact with you. So on Facebook, please like our pages, /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, /PodfatherGaming. And you can speak directly with Ignasi, Corey, Steven, Twitter and Instagram, or X and Instagram. Portal Games US, Podfather Gaming, Dice Tower Dish, and at Dice Tower Now. The YouTube channels, very active. Portal Games Movies, the Podfather of Gaming, and Above Board TV. You gotta see the stuff he's doing. And on TikTok, Ignasi is Portal Games US. We really would love to see you in person at an upcoming convention in 2023 and 2024. So come up and see us at PAX U next. Both of us will be there again.
Both of us will be at PAX.
And we'll probably be doing another one of these right from there. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine Podcast. If you want your podcast edited by Joshua, you can reach him on tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. And that beautiful voice you hear doing the intro, the outro, the in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Anything else? It's the final question.
I was going to throw in their PAX because it's going to be, I think it's only 10 days after this.
I mean, by the time you hear this,
We're
it'll be
gonna be at PAX.
1 week later. Yeah, this will drop
Yeah.
next Wednesday, the 25th. No. This is Saturday, so it's 10 days away, like you said. Yeah, this is gonna drop
Yeah.
in 4 to 5 days, and then we're gonna be there a week later.
It's going to be amazing.
You're going home and then going to PAX, right? You're not going
I
to New
am.
Jersey, okay?
Yep. Why would I go to New Jersey?
I don't know. You have family there? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us. We love you all. See you soon.
See you later, guys.